Leo loves well, and like the lion, he loves the sun-baked lands of savannah and its subtropical fringes. And Leo peoples, like the ancient Egyptians and the Mesoamerican Indians, sought to reflect the colors of sunlight striking the earth's terracotta, out of whose transported limestone they built their fabulous pyramids. The Central American Mayans adored kingship and city-states. They had calendars based on the sun and wrote in hieroglyphs. Their stepped pyramids are so reminiscent of the ziggurats of early Mesopotamia, and their stucco and painted walls, the baked mud-brickings of those days. The ruler of Leo is the sun, and the ancients worshipped the sun as the embodiment of God. The king and his family were revered as ambassadors on earth, sun gods, incarnated amongst earthmen to reign over them by divine right. Historically, Leo, as king or queen, figures prominently, often in spectacular circumstances. Queen Cleopatra came to Rome with her son to meet Julius Caesar in an unequaled extravaganza. Henry VIII planned to meet the French King Francis at Calais. 5,000 English noblemen accompanied him. So splendid was the meeting place, where giant tents made of material shot with gold, that the whole meeting place was called the Field of the Cloth of Gold. Louis XIV spectacularly crossed the River Rhine. He was called the Sun King, because he was born just that, with sun in Leo. Crowning was also a spectacle, planned to implant the start of a monarch's reign powerfully in the minds of its people. Napoleon, who crowned himself Emperor of France in 1804, was determined to establish a strong dynasty to ensure French domination of Europe, as had Charlemagne, crowned by the Pope 900 years earlier. And then, of course, there was the crowning of Queen Elizabeth II in 1953, a spectacular occasion, filmed in full color for future generations. The actual moment of crowning was a spectacular event witnessed by millions on national television. All eyes focused on the new monarch, the cynosure of all eyes, and par excellence, most notable example of the power of Leo. Leo rules all royal regalia, coronets, rings, and of course that most potent symbol of royalty, the crown itself. The imperial state crown, fashioned for the coronation of Queen Elizabeth II, was modelled on the crown of Queen Victoria. It was set with very ancient jewels. Here we see the Black Prince's ruby, worn by Henry V on his helmet when he crushed the French forces at Agincourt.
And upon this charge, cry God for Harry, England and St. George!
Here we see a copy of St. Edward's crown, used in successive coronations, from Edward II to Charles I. And here, the ancient crown of Charlemagne from the 10th century, the most venerable crown in the world today, and made for Otto I, the founder of the Holy Roman Empire. When not in use, crown jewels are displayed under glass, which is also ruled by Leo. Placing objects under glass seemed to enhance their quality and standing. It gave them the showcase effect, drew the attention, the cynosure of all eyes, as does the glass case effect of royalty. The great Victorian Industrial Exhibition at the Crystal Palace emphasized this new expression of glitter and glamour. But sometimes glass casings are for hygienic purposes, and hygiene is a moon factor, not sun and Leo. They can also be protective, protecting expensive gold watches and jewelry from the kleptomaniac or from sleight of hand. Brazenly, one of our English queens, very early in the century, making court visits to stately homes, removed articles on show, which had to be returned discreetly to the owner later. Then there are the palaces, the spacious regal homes of royalty. Hampton Court Palace, the in-town residence made famous by Henry VIII. Sandringham, the palace so greatly loved by Edward VIII. And Windsor Castle, Elizabeth II's favourite retreat when she is not in London. Buckingham Palace, we all know, where the monarch resides when in London, where celebrities meet at garden parties. Leo rules the monarchy and the surrounding entourage of nobles and aristocrats. The nobility of Britain were matched in many ways by the moneyed upper class of the United States. Wealthy industrialists and railwaymen like Rockefeller and Vanderbilt. The Astors of Manhattan, New York, was one such family. Here they are shown at home. Later, with lack of success in politics, William Waldorf Astor, founder of the most famous of all hotels, the Waldorf Astoria in New York, transferred to England, buying Hever Castle as his home in Kent, purchasing titles and newspapers to become ultimately part of the British nobility. Leo loves the limelight and will step into it whenever there is a chance, so long as nobility of manner is not infringed. Like the sun, he loves to shine, and deems it disrespectful to be upstaged or eclipsed by another. But when the moon passes between the sun and the earth, the solar eclipse enables the sun's corona to have its brief moment of glory. Leo rules that which surrounds. Like the crown surrounds the head, the aura surrounds the body, and the island is surrounded by its seas and its yellow golden sands. And we're always reminded that Leo is a fire sign, by the sun overhead, or rising in the east, or sinking in the west. In its daily motion, the sun displays the recurrent cyclic nature of Leo, Leo and the Sun rule things which recur, and the circulation of things about a central point. The apparent movement of the Sun, which produces the day, is caused by the Earth spinning on its axis. The period of the year and the day, and all these motions, come under the morphology of the Sun and Leo, as do circles and round shapes of any description, like flowers and human faces. Leo houses are all rounded, and there are ones for every conceivable purpose. The South African rondavel, simulating the Zulu Stone Age hut. The igloo, an answer to frigid air and material shortage. The wigwam, portable and warm. The oast house, for storage of hops. The windmill, a powerhouse. The castle keep, for defence in ancient days. The Albert Hall, a centre of culture. And of course the lighthouse, a study in pragmatism. Leo rules seats of all kinds, even those of lavatories, whether they be ornamented, fit for a king, or in the humblest places like this jail. Leo also rules the backside, that sits astride the lavatory seat. The anatomy of Leo is the back itself, a wide expanse or area. Leo rules areas, backs, and the front of the thorax or chest. It also rules walls, but not the bricks that make them, which are under Taurus. Leo rules sons and daughters, the teenage years, boys and girls, and their gay frolicking. This is the sign of love and affection, and before all others, Leo loves himself dearly. When he is still a boy, he can become narcissistic. His darling is his own image in the mirror that he often seeks. Leo rules favours and favourites. The court favourites of the French Louis, like Madame Pompadour and Madame du Barry. And the Duke of Buckingham, court favourite of King James I, and also of his son, the ill-fated Charles I. Of Buckingham, the Earl of Digby wrote, "Never any man, in any age, nor I believe in any country, rose in so short a time to so much greatness of honour, power, and fortune, upon no other recommendation or advantage than of the beauty and gracefulness of his person." Leo rules dear and endearing words like darling and sweetheart and pet. Narcissism and the flower Narcissus. All flowers, especially when they are circular, are under Leo. Sunflowers, which always face the sun. With flowers, the plants display their sex organs proudly for all to see, and especially for that special Leo insect, the bee. Leo rules the heart. It is the working pump of the circulating blood. Blood pumped out of the arteries carries oxygen and life to all the cells of the body. The heart is also the traditional home of love and compassion. It is one of the 3 vital organs of the body that can be death-dealing if its own blood supply becomes insufficient. The coronary arteries supply the heart muscle and become very easily closed off by infarct or through the aging process of sclerosis. This is heart disease, and it is mankind's greatest killer.
Okay, adrenaline's going in. Okay, 200 joules, 200 and then 360.
Had an accident.
Okay, Charles, stand back, 200. Okay, charging 200.
Leo rules vitality and the prana coming from the sun that resuscitates us, and health farms, spas, and sunny resorts that are meant to restore our vigor and vitality, and the sanatoriums with their conservatories and sun porches, and suntan lotions, and bright travel magazines with gaudy covers. Leo rules any kind of helpline or rescue operations, like those of lifesavers and lifeboats, helicopters, and coast guards. The lion provides us with psychological pointers to the human Leo personality. Lazy Leo is an expression we apply to some Leo types who, like all lions, sleep too much and grace us with their yawns. And like lions, Leo people love to sit down to a feast and lick their chops in anticipation. The king of beasts takes the lion's share and leaves the remainders to his family. Lordly Leo is flattered to have his sons and daughters around him, and nudges forth from them appropriate filial responses. And young lions, like domestic cats, love to play. Cats, as house pets, often entertain us with their antics. They can comfort us when we're lonely and seek diversion. They can lower our blood pressure when we are frustrated. Their kingly needs make demands on our pantry. Leo plays games, especially circular ones, from ring-a-ring-a-roses and merry-go-rounds up to games on circuitous courses like horse racing, the sport of kings. The sun is the symbol of the personality, and when it is placed in an astrological sign at the time of our birth, it acts as an indicator of the qualities bestowed on our personalities. We talk of Sun in Aries as being a pushy person, always seeking leadership, and like the proverbial ram butting his way through life, instead of being the Sun in Cancer type, who sidesteps confrontations, or lordly Leo, who sweeps around any obstruction, lifting his hat to all and sundry, determined not to allow any alien cloud to darken his chosen scene.
Well, this is indeed a pleasure.
Psychologist Carl Jung was a sun in Leo, and was nigh obsessed with unravelling the secret of the personality. Jung was a gruff Leo, the old lion taking no nonsense from his team of lionesses. Then there are your sun sign manuals. Sun in Leo, Sun in Sagittarius, Sun in Gemini, and so on. Leo rules the face and the expression on the face. Certain basic expressions are universal to the human race. Fear, anger, sadness, enjoyment. At any moment of time, the overall expression of the personality is in the face, and Leo with the sun rule the face, its expression, and the personality. Sun in Aries, Sun in Taurus, Sun in Gemini mean respectively the Aries personality, the Taurus personality, the Gemini personality, and so on. What expression do we see in this orang's face, and in this chimp's? The faces of royalty have sometimes been targets of light-hearted jest and frivolity. Here, during the Boer War, the aging, almost senile Queen Victoria is seen flattening the Boer President Paul Kruger. English prime ministers have also been satirized, lampooned and cartooned, their features distended to convey the affect of the cartoon meaning. Here, Disraeli, offering Queen Victoria the crown of India instead of just that of England, and the old Queen is not too enthusiastic about it. The sun, the face, and the dial are all related to Leo. Sundials were used in ancient Rome, and in Britain not so long ago. Leo rules clock faces, which were once like royalty, the focus of all eyes, on factory floors, in stations, town halls, marketplaces, and churches. Some clocks even showed the signs of the zodiac. Then they became more intimate as fob watches, and lovable as grandfather clocks, and now more personal by each of us having our own wristwatch. Timekeeping itself, however, comes under Libra. Leo rules great shows, more often staged with circus-like displays, rodeo shows of the USA, places where glittering cups are presented for specially prepared animals, like dog shows and cat shows, especially the cats, the felines of Leo, close to, but not to be confused with the ghastly circus displays of disciplined animals, smacking of cruelty. And there are the musical shows that add gaiety to the scene and often stamp themselves on a decade, like the pre-war Ziegfeld Spectaculars, and musicals like Annie Get Your Gun, and the Pacific wartime South Pacific. And then Oklahoma, and the old favorite, Showboat. When Venus and the Sun are conjoined in Leo, we have light-hearted comedy scenes, as in Oscar Wilde's Importance of Being Earnest, but which could be taken from everyday life.
You know, the way you flirt with Gwendolen is almost as bad as the way Gwendolen flirts with you.
I am in love with Gwendolen. I have come up to town expressly to propose to her.
I thought you would come up on pleasure.
Leo rules razzmatazz, a noisy show of activity, such as those displays at American political party conventions, which herald a presidential election. Polling and voting on election day comes under Leo. Still a sort of festive occasion, offering the opportunity to display on walls in your own street how you will vote. And the suffragettes, who made public spectacles of themselves to win the vote for women. And Leo is where traffic circles, streets converge, and many shoppers circus in a noisy bustle, where people meet each other openly and joyously, often by appointment under a circus sign or feature. We associate Latin countries with hot sun and the midday siesta which it induces, and Mexican hats that shade the face from the sun. And with siestas we link up with fiestas, carnivals, and wild celebrations like a Mardi Gras. And with all this phantasmagoria there are the hats, heads crowned and covered with gay workings. Hats range from skullcaps, the headgear of baseball, through schoolboy straw bashers, which I wore at high school and often had bashed in, right up to the Gainsborough, showing headdress of a more picturesque time. Hats are worn today for specific occasions. Here are two tableaux of leonine settings. A star actress seated on a bench with a wall as a background. A flashy Edwardian hat and encircling neckdress. At least 8 items of Leo characteristics. And we must not forget the Durbar, with its setting in India, which turned the monarchy of Britain into a tangible empire by annexing the allegiance of India's 100-odd princes. And of course, various coronations, and the state opening of Parliament, and the jubilees that follow in cycles of a reign of 25, 50, and 60 years. All these times and royal celebrations being under Leo. The lure of gold has always been the most notorious motivation for human avarice. Its discovery anywhere signaled local smash-and-grab raids from long before the days of Cortez, who wiped out a whole race for it, and Sir Walter Raleigh, who in his search for El Dorado lost his head on the scaffold as punishment for his failure. Gold rushes in Alaska and on the Witwatersrand of South Africa brought together communities of people maddened by the enticement of the most precious of metals. I was raised in South Africa, and therefore always saw gold as the central theme of the economy. Today, it has been estimated that some $5 billion worth of gold has been extracted from South African gold mines. Such a figure is hard to grasp, but easier if we estimate what this amount of gold represents. It would constitute a solid sphere of this metal 50 feet high, which could take its place comfortably as a 5-story block in any city square. Gold also became important to me as the symbol, with fire, of the central theme of spiritual growth, which I have practiced all my life, the theme of alchemy. Leo rules alchemy, the making of gold, and the Athenas, and glass objects that did the converting, and alchemists like Paracelsus, who kept the furnaces going, and who contributed to the fabulous myth and legend of Leo. We have seen here something of the glamour and glitter of the sign of Leo. But it should be remembered that the Lion of Leo, symbol of kings and palaces, was also the maker of hell for the early Christians. Condemned to die horrific deaths in huge circular arenas, egged on by thousands of spectators, these cruel scenes, fabricated by the Romans, were accepted as the kingdom of hell by the Christians confronting their martyrdom. They believed in the kingdom of glory and splendor which martyrdom would bring them.